What's up, guys? We're the one podcast, and just like you, we once lost. But God found us and changed our lives for the good.
We're not perfect, but God's grace is sufficient. So join us as we chat about our struggles and what keeps us calm through the storms of life.
The one on three, the one on me. 1, 2, 3, the one! Yeah. Wow.
We are finally here!
Finally here. It's been so long. Man, we wanted to do this since like what?
November. It's been a while.
December, January, March, April, May. That's 7 months.
That's 7 months. But we're here.
Praise God,
We're
man.
here.
The time is right. He said Isaiah 60 verse 22. When the time is right, I the Lord make it happen. For me, so that's what he did. For me, so yeah, man. So, what characters do y'all think resonate with y'all the most in the Bible?
Definitely Hagar. I feel like her just story of kind of being in a situation that she didn't want to be in, and then it getting worse and her wanting to leave, but having to come back because the Lord's like, I'm going to make things better for you. Like, that, like, stands out a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, it shows how much you have to be faithful.
Okay.
What about you?
I think, like, Moses.
Moses?
Probably because he was literally dang, I'm looking at him. Like, he was just walking, bro. He was just like, he was walking, and then he sees a burning bush, and he's like, "Hey, let me go investigate it." And that was kind of like me. Like, I was just like chilling, and then ran to the Lord.
That's what's up.
For me, it's gonna be like Jonah, because he ran. Like when the Lord told him to do something to go preach to the people, he ran. I feel like I kind of did the same thing in my life, but I was brought back.
As you, for me, it's David. It's very specific. I made a mistake. I just felt really bad about it. I felt empty. I was very depressed. I was at a very low point in my life, but the Lord still used me, gave me a second chance. And if He could give me a second chance, He could give you a second chance.
That's for real.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good. I like that.
So like, yeah, man, like I think we should break it down.
Yeah, let's get into it.
For me, if you don't know the story of David, in the passage of 2 Samuel 11, it talks about how he committed adultery with Bathsheba. Like, for me, even though he did that, he made a mistake, the Lord still used him, like, further on, right? And the next passage in 2 Samuel 12, it talks about, like, David, like, condemning somebody for their sins. Now, I never condemned anybody for their sins. I feel like I could correlate to that. Like, I preached about something to somebody, but I was still living in sin. I feel like a lot of people is doing that, and we have to, like, evaluate ourselves. The scripture in the Bible, like, for me, like, you got to take the plank out of your eye before you take the speck out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So, yeah, man. So, I was thinking like that. For me, I have to be like a representation of Christ in all my ways. Because first of all, you don't know who's watching. Believers, unbelievers, lukewarm. So you just got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? It's not actually for me. You're representing Christ in all your ways. And, yeah, man, just put on for Christ. Be the light of the world. And, yeah, man, the Lord forgave him and gave him a second chance, man. And gave me a second chance, man. And don't have the mentality like, the Lord's going to forgive me, so I'm good. No, don't live in your sin, because sin is only going to hold you back. You just trust in the Lord, submit to Him, man. And you just let Him work in you. Just let Him transform you, man. And you won't only save your life. You just living that life could save others' lives. I always say, like, the best way to evangelize is to actually live it out for me. So, like, for example, if you evangelize,
actually, that's a fact.
Like, if you evangelize,
you have
and you're not living
it
it,
out.
they're gonna be like, hey, if she's not doing it, I'm not gonna do it either. So, like, what's she talking about?
When you do that, like, what you're saying doesn't even feel like true to you. Like, you just feel like you're saying a script. Like, it doesn't feel real. And I feel like people pick up on that. Like, I think people definitely pick up on that.
Yeah. So how about y'all?
Honestly, I just wanted to like rewind some things that you said, because I really like the fact that, like, you pointed out that even though David sinned, even though, like, God was like, He doesn't want people to sin, but He knows that we're gonna sin. But even in that, God still found a way to use him. And that shows that, like, whenever distraction comes up, God is always going to provide us with something to get us on the right track. It's whether or not we take it. Because David was king. Like, he was living his best life. And one slip up, and God said, like, I am upset. Like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, you definitely could have done something way better. Like, you were supposed to be out there fighting, not looking at a girl. But, like, he still was faithful to him, still, like, allowed him to prosper. So I think that's very important. Like, out of the whole story of David, I think it's that part. Like, even though we're sinners, God still uses us. And that's what helps us make our lives more Christ-like, because we're all sinners, we're all gonna mess up, we're all gonna miss the mark. But every single day we wake up, God gives us a new chance to live for Him, a new chance to like cultivate our lives to be around Him. So I think that's cool, honestly.
Yeah, for the righteous man, falls 7 times, it gets back up again. Just gotta get back up, man.
Yeah.
Constantly, don't live in your sin. Just get back up. Keep pushing. Keep trying to strive for the cross, man. It'll be good. Remember one thing: you're never too far gone. Look at the story of Saul. Man, he murdered Christians. He had envy. He had pride, man. With the Lord, man, He transformed him. He gave him a new name. You know what I'm saying? The Paul, man.
Named him Paul.
Yeah, man. He wrote most of the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. You go from murdering Christians to being used by God.
One of them.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, you're never too far gone. Your mistakes are not defined. Just keep on working, man. The Lord looked at your heart posture. Don't worry about what people say. Worry about what God says. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So so how about y'all?
It's like God knows you. Like He knows everything about you. Even if you don't tell Him, He knows what your heart posture is. He knows how you feel. So like, why not just be open about it? But yeah.
Dang, y'all just cooked. Oh my god.
Honestly, mine is Hagar. I know probably a lot of people have not read her story. It's one of those that's like kind of like, you know, slipped in there. It's not very long, but if you turn to Genesis 16, that's where her story begins. And the scripture I wanted to focus on, like, that stood out to me the most was verse 13. And, you know, so just like a background, she's already run away. Let's start from the beginning. So Sarai and Abraham, Abram at the time, goes to Egypt, and he sees Hagar, and he buys her, and, you know, they do some folly. Back in the day, of course. They did some folly with her.
So sorry.
It's a little crazy.
We were just talking about folly, so so she finally returns. The Pharaoh ordered her, because she was beautiful, of course. So the Pharaoh's ordered her. Abram sees, he, you know, rescues her, brings her home with him and Sarai. And so the story is basically, if you don't know, Sarai could not have any children. She was, it's in the text, it really says that the Lord closed her womb. Like, her womb was closed at that time. Like, the Lord did not want her to conceive at that time.
Crazy,
so her womb was closed. And Sarah was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm old. You're saying we're supposed to have a child that's going to work out and, you know, be this miracle and we're going to have descendants. But I'm like 80. So what are you expecting of me? So Sarah's like, no, I have this young servant now. You know, Abram, go with her. You know, do the do. Come back. Hopefully she has a seed and it's a son. So, you know, she's pregnant. And Sarah is upset because she's like, oh, like, she actually got pregnant. Like, she's filled with, like, jealousy almost. And so, you know.
That's kind of crazy. Like,
yeah, I know. Like, you asked, that's a crazy part. Like, you asked your husband to sleep with her to give you a son so that you could be lifted up. That's literally what it says in the text. She wanted Abram to conceive with her so that her social structure, so that her social, like, reputation would be lifted up and that she wouldn't be looked down upon.
So she got a kid.
So she finally gets a kid, which is later known as Ishmael. But at that time, she's, like, filled with this jealousy and rage. She beats Hagar. And Hagar's like, no, I can't do this. Hagar runs. So as she's running, it's said, when you do a little bit of research, it's not really said in Genesis particularly, but it's known that she didn't know exactly where she was running, but she was trying to run back to Egypt because that was her home. Everyone she knew, all of her family was there. She didn't fully make it because, you know, as she's in the wilderness, you know, an angel of the Lord meets her at the well. And they have this conversation, and the Lord literally, though the Lord knows what is happening, what's going on, he still has this conversation with her. He's like, you know, what are you doing? Where are you going? Like, what's happening? He's like, what's going on? Like, you want to talk about it? Like, he's like reasoning with her. Do you want to talk about it? Like, really? Like, do you want to talk about it? And I think, like, that part, like, he knows everything, but he still takes the time to listen
Yeah.
Like, he's like, yeah, I know you said, or yeah, I know you have these feelings, but I'm still gonna listen. Like, my ears are still open. Like, I'm still gonna pay attention to you. So, they have this talk, and then it gets to verse 13, and Hagar said, why am I in chapter 15? What's going on? What's going on, phone? Anyways, sorry, chapter 16, 13, and it says, then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees. For she said, I have also here seen him who sees me. And I like that verse so much because Hagar felt unseen. She felt like just a servant. She felt like she was just something that was only necessary when somebody needed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of the times what I struggle with, especially being like a people pleaser and a recovering one. I definitely think that like a lot of the times I was so captivated by like, I'm only necessary when people need me.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like, I'm in the shadows. Nobody really notices me. Nobody knows my name. Like, it was more so, like, and I really connected with that because I think it took, like, a very long time. Like, it made me took, like, the last straw, and I was like, nah, like, I can't deal with this. Like, I need to go somewhere else. Like, it took, like, close to, like, me just not wanting to be alive. And God, like, really found me, and he was like, no, like, I have a purpose for you. Like, I'm going to, and, like, literally he promises Hagar's descendants what he promised Abram's, which was that her descendants would, you know, be as wide as the stars in the sky. Like, it would be, like, so fruitful, and she would have so many descendants. And I was like, that is so interesting. Because, like, that same promise he gave to somebody else, which just shows, like, how faithful he is. Like, he literally is the same God. What he can do for somebody else, he can do for you in tenfold. Like, and tenfold. And I just found that so interesting because she felt so unseen. She felt so unwanted. And, like, she just wanted to escape. But God gave her a purpose to go back into the situation and have hope. And eventually, things turned out brighter. Like, you know, she had Ishmael. They moved on. And they had their own place. They had their own area. And it just shows that, like, even in the times when the situations are hard and you don't want to be there. Like, I feel like there's been countless of times where, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't like these people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like these people. I don't want to do this. Like, this sucks. But it's just, like, you have to because there's a purpose. And in the end, you're going to receive fruit. And, like, definitely the process, I was like, yo, like, God, I don't know what you're talking about right now. I was like, God, like, you might be bugging. Like, are you sure?
Are you sure?
Are you sure? But in the end, like,
I'll be up there like, I'm God.
God's like, look at this. But in the end, like, it was honestly worth it. And I think a lot of my testimony is the fact that God gave me a purpose. Like, that is literally, like, if I could say one-liner, something so simple about why I came to God or why I'm even a Christian, it's because God gives me a purpose. And I feel like there's no better character to describe that or to even, like, show how, like, because it seems so simple, but, like, the process is so hard sometimes. And it's, like, it's really a battle. And I think that, like, what he did for her was truly amazing. Because if I would take her, I would have left. Like, I would have left. I would have been ran away. So I really think, like, you know, like, she's with these random people that she doesn't know. Like, they're not really her family. Like, and she's just there. And, like, she's just, like, a servant. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, like, she's just doing whatever they tell her. She doesn't even speak their language or whatnot. So I feel like it's just, like, oh, wow. Like, you really stuck there. Like, you really, like, held on. You went back. Like, you got beat. Yeah. You still went back, like, you know, but and that's I'll be gone. And I think but that's the thing. Like, I'm not saying like if you're in a bad relationship right now. Do not say. Don't hear this and be like, yo, these sucks. No, don't say. She heard from the Lord. She heard from my angel of the Lord, and the angel of the Lord. It's like a thing of like, you know, God says like, I know your problem and I have a solution for it, and I'm gonna give you something while you're sacrificing something. So she sacrificed the fact that she could have went back home and been with her family. She sacrificed that, but God gave her purpose. God gave her a promise that was actually going to be fulfilled. A lot of times we get promised stuff and it's not actually being fulfilled. It's just like, you know, a quick little thing to get you to do what someone wants you to do. But that's not God. Like, God pulled through. Ishmael, he had all the descendants in the world. Now, so it's definitely like God's promise is definitely faithful. It's definitely true. It's always a yes and an amen. So listen to the voice of the Lord before you make any crazy decisions about situations. But yeah.
Just want to say this real quick. There's a saying, right? Because I feel like all of us have like our own personal situations that may be hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so like the saying was like, I'm strong because I am not, but know the one who is. I mean, so like
yes,
like we're weak, but at Him we're strong. For me, and like there's a scripture, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ. For me, so just for me, no matter what your situation is, just trust in God, bro, to pull you through. Because sometimes, bro, we can't do it on our own, bro. Sometimes it's too much for us to burden. For me, but God will take all our burdens. He'll just guide us through it. For me, He got your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about y'all though?
I feel like the story of Jonah. If you've ever been like to Sunday school, you probably heard it before. You know this guy.
Everyone is Jonah.
You know, yeah, like
Everyone is Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah's the one that people are like, oh yeah, I know him. You know, they want to listen to God. You know, so basically his story starts off. You know, God tells him in Jonah 1 verses 1 through 3. God tells him, "Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." The people in Nineveh, they were sinning, they were doing bad things, and God needed a prophet to go speak to them. But Jonah, he doesn't want to do that. He's scared because just like you ever seen like a group of people that feel like they're shady. You don't want to go over there and be like, "Hi guys, hi, what's up? Like, what you're doing is wrong." You know, like Jonah was like, "No, like those people, I don't talk to them." You know, so he ran away like on this boat. Then in Jonah 2, verse 6 says, well, that this is when he's in the belly of the fish. He goes, runs away on a boat. He gets caught in a storm because he doesn't want to listen to the Lord. The people in the boat ask him, "Hey, why is the storm happening? Does anybody know?" And they know it's him. They know it's him. Like they're asking him because they know it's him. He's like, yeah, it's me. I have to fear the Lord, and the Lord is chopping up the water. So they throw him overboard. He gets swallowed by a fish.
Wait, hold on, wait.
No, that's so crazy.
Wait, you can continue, but like,
do you know Mark when it talks about? Do you know Mark when maybe it's Mark or Matthew? One of the Gospels. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't read the story recently, but it talks about it. They're in this boat, and the boat's too heavy, and then so God begins to talk to him. He's like, "You need to let off the dead weight on your boat." I feel like that's what they did. They knew that he was no good, so they literally, horrible. But they literally let off the dead weight because why would you attach yourself to somebody that's bringing you storms? Like, why would you want to be a whole storm, like a whole thunderstorm, like you're about to die type of storm, like you might get lost at sea type of storm? Like, why would you want to have somebody attached to you? Like, why would you want dead weight? So let it go. Like, that's literally what happened.
Dang, wait, why is that a word?
Because
that's crazy.
Watch who you be around.
And like she just said, you letting that person go might lead them to do something that they were supposed to do in the first place.
Exactly.
It might lead them further.
What?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Oh my.
Because what happened in that fish?
Yeah.
Tell them.
In Jonah chapter 2 verse 6, he says, "I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God." He's basically saying he was, trapped. Like he was trapped inside himself within the world, but within his like worldly desires to not talk to those people. Then God, by giving him the revelation that his life will be okay, that if he goes and just talks to those people, he's just brought up from that like chains, those bondage. So then Jonah, he finally goes to Nineveh. He preaches, and they listen to him, but he still wants to leave because he's like, "Okay, I'm done here," and God's like, "You're not done here." But when he's like sitting outside, him and God have like a little talk, like basically, he goes, says to God, hold on, I'm gonna pull up the scripture right now.
Well, while you're doing that, something that just stood out to me is isolation. How isolation actually works, because a lot of times, like, God is trying he doesn't want us to be alone, because alone is something totally different.
Yeah.
He wants us to be isolated so that we can actually understand what he's asking us to do.
So what's the difference?
I feel like the difference is loneliness is when you're without God. Isolation is when you're with God. Because isolation is you're removing the distractions. Loneliness is like you're like in your feelings. Like you're allowing your feelings to control you. You're allowing your thoughts to control how you act, who you're around. Like loneliness is like you're in a room full of people, yet you feel like you're not a part of it. Yet you feel like you're sad. Yet you feel like you don't belong. Isolation is you're by yourself and you're seeking the Lord. Isolation is when you're fasting and you're praying. Like you're like I feel like isolation is a sacrifice. Loneliness is a choice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the point, and I think in that time of Jonah being in the fish, that was his time where he could actually think about what God is saying and be like, okay, like, you know, making it make sense, because sometimes we're surrounded by people and we get in our head and there's everything
Mad
going on.
distraction.
Yeah, like there's distractions and we don't really want to do it. But when we're isolated and it's just us and God, and there's this like end all be all, either you do like what the Lord calls you to do or you live a sinful life.
Mhm.
And I think that like that's really what pushed Jonah, is that like the isolation, like God took him out of the distraction, God took him out of the storm, put him in a quiet, dark place and said, think. See what you come up with. Because you're obviously, I know what you need to do. He knows that Jonah needs to go out there and preach. But Jonah needs to know that he needs to go out there and preach. So that time of isolation, you're figuring out what God already knows, but you're now accepting it and walking into it. I think that's like the crazy part, because like, you know, like anything could have happened to Jonah, but the fact that he was isolated in this whale's belly, it's dark, it's isolated, like there's nothing else to do. What are you like? Are you gonna talk to the fish? Like,
Dang.
like are you gonna be Poseidon or something? Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you gonna do? Like, it gives you that time to sit there and talk. Like, imagine being locked in a closet and it's dark.
Like, what you gonna do?
Like, what are you
Oh my
gonna
gosh,
do?
that's actually facts, bro.
What are you gonna do? Now, there's a difference if you choose to walk into that closet, turn off the lights, and lock yourself in, because now that's loneliness. You're choosing, while there's a whole crowd of people out there, to be alone and to be isolated. When you're forced into it, and you're like, because he was forced. They threw him off the boat. No hesitation.
Yeah.
They said, this is your fault. You're gone.
There's a storm right now. Anyone know what it is? And they're like all coming at him. And he's like, yeah.
Like, he was forced into it, and I think that's a lot of times, like, no one chooses to be isolated because we want to be around people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just what I'm saying.
Yeah, and after that time of isolation, you know, sometimes, you know, when you are isolated, you do feel like, you know, dang, why am I isolated?
Yeah.
So this is basically what happens when he gets to Nineveh. He preaches. Once he preaches to the people, you know, they stop doing all these bad, sinful things that they're doing. And now God, instead of destroying this town like he had originally told Jonah, he spares it. And Jonah's not happy about this, because Jonah knows, Jonah was mad. Jonah was mad. Jonah's like, so you made me go through a storm, get swallowed by a fish, spat back out, still had to go here, just for you to say, never mind, I'm not going to destroy this town.
Isn't that so crazy?
Yeah.
But like, that's good though.
But that's the thing, because like, what if it did happen?
Yeah, exactly. If it did happen.
But I think that shows like you following God's purpose for you saves somebody else.
Yeah, bro.
And it might not be the result you want, but it's the, you know, the result that, you know, it was supposed to happen. So now he's you know, upset. Now he's talking to God. He goes, I went through all of this for what? So in Jonah 4, verse 3, he says, therefore now, Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Now this resonates really heavy with me, because there was a time where I was trying to walk in my calling and it wasn't working. Like I felt like I was missing something. Like I felt like I wasn't understanding something. So then I felt like I just had no purpose. I had no calling within God. And I kind of felt like Jonah, like, why are you sending me on this mission for, like, you know, no reason?
For nothing.
But then God tells him this: do you do well to be angry? And this brings up a whole big picture of, if you're going to serve and you're going to do right, do it with a good heart. You know, because if you're angry, you're just not going to see the point in what you're doing. If you're out there evangelizing because you feel like you have to, or you feel like you're obligated to, like Miriam said before, it's going to feel scripted. It's not going to feel like within your heart.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
Definitely.
And when you go out there and you do it from a kind heart and a good heart, you'll realize like the beauty and like wonder that God has created on this earth, and how by you doing your part, you're saving more people.
Yeah.
And you're just spreading that big message around, you know.
No, I like that.
Yes.
I like that, because like, think about it. What good has ever come from you doing something mad or upset or in your feelings? Like, and that's why like it talks about, you know, be slow to anger, you know, quick to listen. Like, don't just respond. Like, don't just fire off, like, and just say whatever you want to say. Like, no, like, actually listen, actually understand, hear the story. Take your time to respond. Like, even if you have to be like, you know what? You know, there's a lot of factors happening. Like, I need some time to think about this. I need some time to breathe. And actually reach out to them. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I need some time. Never say anything. Never say anything.
You gotta follow up.
No, definitely follow through. Because, like, think about it. Like, what if God didn't follow through when creating the earth? We would not be here right now. Right. So follow through. But, like, you know, take your time. Don't just react while you're in the motions. Like, give it some time to settle. Like, you know, let the storm calm before you react. So, yeah. Jonah, he went through it. He went through it for sure.
The one thing, you cannot run from God, bro. I'll tell you that. You cannot run from God.
He will always find. It is that song, He's in the Room, and, like, there's that part where it's like, if I go, you know, wherever I go, you'll find me. If I'm in a corner, you'll find me. Even if I'm, like, laying in hell and I'm sinning, you'll find me. If I'm, like, in, you know, at the club or, like, at a party, like, wherever it is, skating, wherever it is, he will find you. And that's literally what it is. No matter where you go, no matter what your story is, no matter how simple or random it may be, he will find you. Like, simple as that.
I was thinking about a point, like, a little bit earlier where you guys were talking. I was saying, like, when you have to, like, make, like, a decision, like a life-changing decision, a lot of people's gonna be in your ear.
Definitely.
Be like, hey, Tam, man, you should do this, but that may not be
because they want to cut from. They want what you're doing to prosper them. But that's the thing. Like, that's why, like, it's so important to have God's voice in your ear, because what God is saying, He wants you to be the best you. He wants you to serve Him properly. He wants you to serve people properly. Like, His will for your life is always going to be better than what your will is. Like, you know, like when people make those posts and it's those flowers, and it's like your plan for your life and then God's plan for your life. There's always more flowers on God's plan for your life, because He has so much more in store for you than you or anybody else can see. Like, simple.
And, like, you may not want to do the Lord's will, but it's always best for you. For example, when Jesus, He's like, Lord, pass the cup from me, like, for me, but nevertheless, let your will be done. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just know that, like, the Lord's will is the best will. Do not fluctuate out of your own will, because that will always lead to destruction. There's no if or buts about that. That will always lead to destruction. So be mindful. But yeah, man, Jonah's significant character.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us. I hope you guys had a good time. It was nice talking to you guys, and thank you for allowing us to be the ones to teach you.
Stay fearful, stay faithful, stay forgiven. God bless y'all. We love y'all so much. See y'all later.
Bye.